Hi everybody, this is Noelle with Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our Oakwood Village store, and we are going to do a spotlight on one of my favorite annuals, Coleus. Now, Coleus is a very cool foliage plant. It is part of the mint family, the Lamiaceae family, so those are your mints. And when you come and look at Coleus, and feel the stems, you'll notice it has a square stem, very, very typical of the mint family there. So do come by and check that out. So Coleus, to start out with, it's has been under a couple different genus names. It has been considered a solenstemon. It has been considered a, what else? A plectranthus, which is Swedish ivy, which we've talked about before. But right now, and this never happens, its botanical name, genus, is Coleus, and its common name is Coleus, so it all works out for us. So that's great. So Coleus. Species is Scutellarioides, and that's a mouthful, I know. And scutella actually in Latin means bowl or small dish. And I'll show you if I can find on these plants, although they're pretty immature right now, and a lot of these varieties don't do a lot of blooming, but it's the spiky bloom that you see on Coleus. Sometimes they're whitish, bluish, purplish, and when the flowers expire, they have what they call a calyx, and it looks like a bowl. That's how it got its name. So that's kind of interesting there too. These plants are native to subtropical, tropical Africa, Southeast Asia, of course, and Australia. So they really are nice tropical plants for us. In Northeast Ohio, of course, they make great annuals for us in containers in the garden. They do wonderfully. But I'll tell you that they also make a nice house plant. So we'll talk about that too, that you can winter over indoors, kind of give yourself some color. So let's start out with sun like we always do. So sun requirements for Coleus. All Coleus varieties and species really like part shade to tolerate very, very well full shade. And indoors, if you're growing it as a house plant, bright indirect light, which means northern exposure window, no direct sun. So that works very, very well for them. Maybe 5 to 6 feet away from a sunny window. So they do not need direct sunlight to do well for us, okay? There are many varieties that are available now that are very sun tolerant. So now many of your varieties of Coleus can go and grow very well in full sun, okay, all the way to that full shade and bright indirect light, okay? So they're very versatile plants. So you can plant them in your shade garden, in shade containers. You can plant most of these in sun gardens, sunny containers, and they'll do very, very well for you, okay? I'll always recommend to read your tags on Coleus. The reason being is there's quite a different, there's quite a change in size and width of these plants. So do make sure that you read the tags. But for the most part, and I'll point out the ones that don't really like the sun too much, for the most part, your varieties are going to be fairly sun tolerant for you, okay? Next thing, watering. So watering with these guys, actually I'll do soil first, sorry. So soil is going to be a well-drained to evenly moist, rich, loose soil, okay? So they love potting mixes. They love nice planting mixes as well in the garden. Just make sure that you are digging down, making sure that you have loose soil, let's say 4 to 6 inches deep before you plant these in the garden. Of course, in containers, hanging baskets, what have you, window boxes, pots, all of those start with new potting mix, and they'll really, really enjoy that, or planting mix, no problem whatsoever. Next part about this is the water, okay? So with that well-drained, even moisture, That's what they really like. You will notice very quickly when a Coleus starts to dry, they will wilt rather quickly if they just get a little bit on the drier side. So you've got to make sure that you are keeping that soil evenly moist. Being in the mint family, their root establishment is really, really fast. So they're going to fill up that soil very quickly with a nice healthy root system. And so again, because those roots start to take up the soil, they will dry out a little bit faster as the root base gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you've got to make sure that you're thoroughly watering those plants. Of course, in the ground when you're growing them is going to be a lot less water needs as far as growing them in a container. So just keep them in mind as well. Okay, fertilizer. We love to use our Osmocotes in containers or out in garden beds, no problem. You can use the green cap Osmocote or the pink cap. Pink cap is going to be more of tropical foliage plants and house plants. So that would work very well with Coleus, but green cap is going to work perfect too because it's a balanced fertilizer, okay, for flowering and foliage plants. Next thing that you want to tell, and you can use plant tone, guys. Don't worry about that. Plant tone works as well. So you can use that in containers and in the ground soil as well. So if you want an organic option, no problem. They can grow very well with organics. And I should say they're not really heavy feeders. Again, being in the mint family, they're fairly vigorous growers. So you don't have to feed them heavily. You can miss a feeding and they're really not going to have a problem with that. Okay. Next thing, let's talk about maintenance with these guys. A lot of these newer varieties, and I was talking about like the sun-tolerant varieties, these Coleus really produce a lot of foliage and they have been grown vegetatively, so they don't produce a lot of flowers. So like I was mentioning before, I don't have a variety here right now that's actually producing flowers for us. And if I find one, of course, I'll show you and Taylor will take a close-up of it. But they're just really into producing vigorous foliage growth. And we might see flowers later in the season as they get a little bit more mature. They could produce flower spikes as they get a little bit stressed later in the season too. So just be aware of that. And when you see a flower spike, some folks like them, but for the most part, we grow Coleus for that foliage effect, the color and the texture of the foliage. So the flowering starts to take energy away from that production. So we'll just pinch the flower off, and it's real easy. You can do it with your fingernail and just pinch the top flowers off, and it'll put the energy right back into the plant. So do keep that in mind. Deadheading is definitely good for these plants. If they get a little bit leggy when they're growing in full shade because they're trying to stretch towards light, that happens sometimes. Guess what? Pinching the top growth back, again, will shoot energy back into the plant and will make that plant more bushy, okay? Another thing that we do with Coleus is we can propagate Coleus. It grows very, very easily from stem cuttings. You can just take a couple nodes of Coleus, go ahead and you can actually put them in just a glass of water and they will root within like 2 weeks. They're very, very fast rooters. And you can also take that stem cutting, you could dip it in some rooting hormone and then also place it in moist soil and it will propagate fairly readily for you. So that's another nice way to grow them indoors and also get them prepped and rooted. And then you could, of course, plant them outdoors as well. So that's always nice with Coleus, very, very productive plant. I think with attributes wise, they're just so easy to care for, folks. They are very, very good growers for us. Again, in just about any sunlight aspect that will work for you. There are some very tall, upright thriller type Coleus that can get pretty big in a container or in garden beds. There are some medium-sized kind of filler Coleus that do a nice job again, but just a little bit shorter. And then there's also some smaller trailing and edger type Coleus that are available out there too. So you have a lot of different colorful textural varieties that you can put in different places in a container, and of course also in your garden beds to complement. And they complement just about every flowering plant out there. I really like mixing the Coleus with your begonia family. I also like mixing Coleus with sun patience, especially because sun patience are versatile, being able to cover the sun and the shade aspects of the garden. So do look for those, but they can be combined. Most of them, the sun tolerant ones, can be combined with geraniums, petunias, all of that sunny classes of flowers. And then of course, in the shade area where we do display Coleus here at Oakwood, again, the begonias, the impatiens, they'll work very nicely with those too, okay? Coleus being in the mint family, we would hope that they'd have more aroma to them. They really don't. And that's one drawback for us, even though being in the mint family usually means fairly good deer resistance. I have not found that to be true, where Coleus, again, just get nibbled and chomped back. Not to the point where they won't grow back, because they definitely do, but the herbivores out there will definitely give them a haircut in our neck of the woods. So just be aware of that with Coleus. Okay, let's talk about a bunch of different varieties here. And lots of times I'm going to categorize them in kind of a couple different categories, but the larger Coleus that we tend to grow are part of the Color Blaze series. Color Blaze is from Proven Winners. There are a lot of different colors. This one's called Dipped in Wine. It's fairly popular. But I'm going to show you that some Coleus have a very large leaf. Lots of times the edges are either scalloped, rippled, they could be toothed sometimes, so those leaf margins. Sometimes the foliage can be, I love this one. This is Vulcan. So you see that scalloped edge on it. The leaf colors can vary. Sometimes the margin is lighter. Sometimes the middle of the leaf is a different color. Just kind of depends, again, on the variety that you like. And with Coleus, I always think it's really important to use them in combination with colorful flowering plants, because sometimes we get a storm, flowers fall or get knocked off of these colorful flowering plants, and you always have the Coleus foliage to look at and enjoy out in the garden. Wasabi is a beautiful, just bright chartreusey leaf. Really, really great with that nice scallop edge to it as well. Wicked Witch is very popular, and right now it's probably about 4 or 5 inches, but Wicked Witch folks in the Color Blaze series, again, can get up to 40 inches tall in the garden. So this is not a little plant. This can be much larger and much wider. So this would be kind of like a thriller. Wasabi is a fairly upright a type of thriller type as well in the garden, okay? Sometimes when you see the series that have more of a cut leaf to them, this is typically more of a medium-sized Coleus. So anywhere between, let's say, 1.5 to 2.5 feet is usually the cut leaf varieties are pretty indicative of that. We're growing the Downtown series, but again, Coleus varieties change. Every year there's something new, something different. So just be aware of that they'll change. And everything that I've showed you so far is all sun tolerant plus shade tolerant. So no problem there. Golden Dreams is very popular, Color Blaze as well. Beautiful sort of yellowy chartreuse on the outside. Beautiful kind of reddish veins on the inside. Again, a fairly large variety here. Albrighto we use quite a bit. We really enjoy this one. Right now it looks a little bit rusty red in the shade here of the greenhouse, but boy, this develops a lot of yellows, reds, burgundies, greens on the foliage when it's in full sun. And I should mention that your Coleus are going to change just depending on, their coloration is going to change just depending on if you put them in sun, the ones that can tolerate it, or put them in shade. So you might have a lightening and a darkening, different developments of color in your Coleus as well. This is one of the smaller varieties. This is also a color blaze variety from Proven Winners. This is called Chocolate Drop. And Chocolate Drop, most of your trailing varieties or spilling varieties are going to have a smaller leaf to them. So just be aware of that when you're looking at Coleus. These leaves will start to grow up first, so usually about 6 to 10 inches tall. And then they start to get enough weight that they'll start to trail over. So this is going to be a nice spiller in containers for you, but also a nice edging or border plant, right out in front in the garden as well. And again, being part of the Color Blaze series, they're really nice as far as full sun to full shade tolerance. I know I keep mentioning that all these varieties, again, for the most part that we grow are sun tolerant. And I wanted to show you the older variety used to be called Wizard Coleus, and you'll still find Wizard Coleus out there. It's more of like a bedding plant. We grow a similar plant or variety, I should say, in flats. And this is actually a sun pineapple, and the Sun series is just like the old Wizard series, has all the same colors, but Wizard was only good for part shade to shade. The Sun can grow anywhere, again, from full sun all the way to full shade, and can go indoors as a houseplant. So this is Sun pineapple, but there are so many other beautiful varieties in the Sun series. So just be aware of that, though there's quite a bit. This is a newer one for me, and I really like it. This is Marble Mania. Beautiful kind of light green right now in development. A lot of modeling with that dark sort of burgundy red, a little touch of purple here and there. And this is sort of a medium to large size Coleus. So again, good filler and containers, perhaps a thriller, a little bit shorter thriller out there, but still really, really beautiful. And again, to me, every container garden, every garden should need some kind of foliage interest and color. And Coleus can really combine a lot of different colors together. And that's really a wonderful effect when you're growing Coleus, because it might pull two opposite colors together and really make them work in the container. And again, it's always something beautiful and really nice to look at out in the garden when things might be taking a break. We might have had, again, a really bad storm or maybe a really dry season, starting to lose some flower activity with some of the flowering plants, but your Coleus tends to hold up really, really well. I'm going to go across the aisle here and show you a very large leaf Coleus. This is the Kona series. And what I love about them is that foliage is really a bold texture, beautiful coloration like most of your Coleus do have. I have rose here, and this one's salmon. And the salmon does start to really produce some sort of peachy pink salmon colors to it in the center. The Kong series, just so you know, they are sort of medium size. They don't get very tall. They do get a little bit wider, probably around the 20-inch mark. Height is probably around 15, 16 inches, maybe 20 inches. So let's say 20 by 20. So they're very large leaf. These are much better in part shade to shade, okay? So just be aware if you're looking for a large leaf Coleus, this one's going to do very, very well in those shadier aspects for you. In the full sun, they tend to get beat up, get some crispy edges and those types of things. Even though you're trying to keep the soil evenly moist, they still tend to dry up. And again, it has to do with how large that leaf is. It just has a larger surface area, and of course, more sun equals more sunspots and damage, okay? So do be aware of that. I wanted to show you some combos that we do grow as well. And I've mentioned these combos before, these Coleus combos before, and I love them because they're just all foliage interest, different colors, different textures, but they really have a very sleek, modern look to them. So if you don't necessarily want all of that riotous flowering color. This is a good way to grow your annual pots and just put them out, again, front porch, patio porch, not, again, very easy care. All of these Coleus varieties in these containers are sun tolerant, again, so sun to full shade, so you can really place them just about anywhere. They do have a Dracaena spike in the center here just for a little bit of thriller. And then this variety actually has some of the most beautiful Coleus out there. Electric Lime is this yellow and green. This orangey purple one is called Campfire. And then I'm going to turn this around. I think this one is either Ridiculous or Ruby Slipper. So really pretty combo. This one's going to be the largest, and it's going to kind of grow out the back. And then these two will follow, and they'll be a little bit shorter. This variety, I think this combo is called Amped Up, and I'm going to look really quick. Yeah, so this one's named. So this is the Amped Up Coleus mixture. Again, you have a Dracaena spike in the center, but it has Wasabi, which is a real popular one. Vino is that dark leaf. And then I'm going to turn this around a little bit, Taylor. We see a little bit of it here. This is Trusty Rusty. And so again, 3 different colors. You've got 2 different textures in here, plus the spiky texture of the Dracaena spike. I think it works really, really nicely again, and can go in a lot of different areas, a lot of places where you might just want some color and texture and not necessarily, again, a lot of flowering. Don't want to worry about deadheading and doing all those things. This is definitely a plant for you. So again, Coleus, look for, again, part shade to full shade to bright indirect light indoors. Most of our varieties that we grow here at Petitti's are going to be sun tolerant for you. So do look for that on their tags and on our signs as well. These plants like evenly moist to just slightly dry soil. Again, you'll see when they start to get dry because they will wilt pretty instantly for you. So do try to keep them evenly moist, well-drained soil, again, that they like to grow in, rich and kind of loose, if you will. So amended soil always works. Feed them, make sure you're feeding your plants, but they're not heavy feeders by any means. So just follow the label instructions on your fertilizer, and just deadhead. If you do see them producing flowers, like I said, go ahead and just pinch them right off, and they'll go ahead, send that energy right back to the plant, and they'll get nice and bushy and continue to branch and fill out for you. Okay, so that's Coleus in a nutshell. Enjoy.